if I may give you the microphone and you can introduce yourselves properly. So I'll start with you, Kristen.
Hi, my name is Kristen Tribby. I work for Fun Factory, and I'm the head of global marketing. I also work a lot within sales, and I'm based out of Fun Factory USA.
Hi, I'm Virginia. I'm the co-founder of Pureeros and also chief marketing officer. Pureeros is an e-commerce and online magazine dedicated to women's sexual wellness.
Hi, my name is Luka. I'm a global marketing director for LELO. Been working last 4 years for LELO, starting from the product development, moving to the digital solutions department, and now I'm in the global marketing position.
I also just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself again from LoveGivr. So I mentioned before I have this e-commerce platform and sex-positive social media, but I also actually run 3 sex shops in Brighton. So yeah, really familiar with selling sex toys to people. So let me start with my first question. So the way that we'll do it is I will ask the questions and then pass the microphone over, and you've got one there, and so you can each answer it. So most of the time, when people are shopping online for a sex product, customers don't have a salesperson supporting them with their choices and their final purchase. So that might hinder their personal experience of shopping. And what are the biggest customer relation challenges for an adult e-commerce these days? So, Luka, would you like to start?
Yes.
Thank you.
Basically, the biggest disadvantage in e-commerce is that traditional shops offer experience where you can touch and feel the products. But this is slowly becoming a matter of the past, because all of these B2B shops, small mom and pop shops, they are slowly dying out. So in e-commerce, it's equally important that we create environment and a platform where we can offer this unique UX and UI, which can actually compensate for all these things. You have a discrete shipping, you have a Q&A, you have algorithms that can help you choose the best products. And it's slowly evolving, because on e-commerce you can offer immersive content, you can offer few additional things that traditional shops can no longer offer. So traditional shops are moving in a way that they will become more flagship shops, or let's say the flagship shops and the showrooms. So this is the future of physical stores. So in the e-commerce, which is becoming much more flexible in the serving content and other experiences, this will become the future. And with all upcoming technologies like VR, AR, MR, soon it will not be any problem. So only the shops on the most attractive locations, which will be flagships or showrooms, they will stay. Everything else will move slowly to e-commerce.
And does LELO have a flagship store?
Can you repeat, please?
Does LELO have a flagship store? Or do you just sell through resellers? I should know this.
We actually have an extremely strong web shop, our own brand shop. It's the strongest branded web shop in the world. So we are focusing now on the flagship stores and the location. We also do the physical location, but the landscape is changing. This is not only the reality of our industry. It's every big player in the market, coming from the beauty industry and everything. This is, you can see in the States, the big shopping malls are closing. You know, younger generations, they don't even care to go to the shops. They maybe sometimes go to the shop, but instantly they buy it on Amazon. So they just go there, take it, see, and then they're scouting for the better prices on the e-commerce sites. So this is the reality of what is happening with the industry.
No, I know. I find that even with my stepkids, they never do go to any shops, ever.
No.
I just constantly tell them not to use Amazon, and it doesn't work.
These kids today, they don't even, it's for them a strange experience to go with mom and pops, and hey, let's go to a shopping mall. No, they're just like, well, we can buy everything online. What's the need? And discrete shipping and return policy and quality of guarantee and everything that you can get has much more advantages versus traditional shops where before in.
Yeah. And Virginia, so how do you make your e-shop an enticing experience?
Well, I partially agree with him. So I think there are two sides on this. So one is definitely, yeah, of course, consumers are, much more used to shop online, and that's fine. We are an e-commerce. we try to do our best to fill, the gap between online and offline experience. We have, for example, a very active chat, and that works very, very well, because most of the time the problem is that they don't really understand the products. So to be clear, like for example, on Pureeros, we only sell very high-end and in-design products, and most of the time you just look at the products and you have no idea it is a sex toy because there's so much in design. And from a consumer perspective, that is kind of an issue, because sometimes they see those products, they're beautiful. Yes, we write a description, we try the best, but at the end of the day, they just want an extra advice on how to use the products, what's the difference between one product and another product. So this is something that on our side, we are trying, to fill the gap as much as we can. But from, I would say, a distributor perspective, what I think is generally missing in the industry among, I would say, all brands, even like very well established ones like LELO or Fun Factory, but even new startups, are really being able to communicate what your PODs are, and in a way that is so clear to the consumers. What's the difference between a product and another? It's not just the design. What is the added value? And this is a little bit missing. That's the perspective of somebody that has maybe to explain a consumer how to use the product. So if I can give a general tip to everybody, try to focus more on communicating why you're different and providing distributors with more materials, to actually show the final consumer what the product looks like, very high quality pictures. If you are selling a 200 quid, sex toy, it has really to have the quality in the image, the lifestyle, the pictures that, I don't know, an Apple Watch has, it's the same thing. Sadly, I see that probably because it's a sex toy, still doesn't, have the same kind of attention. And so you need to be even better than Apple in presenting your product. That's at least my opinion.
Kristen.
Even better than Apple is a hard thing to achieve. I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I came from retail, so I oversaw Pleasure Chest in the US and also Babeland. And being on Fun Factory side for the past 5 years has been quite interesting, especially knowing the difference between the US and Europe. And what we see in the US is that doors are opening, that people actually still want that experience, and it's because they're taking the quality that you get in the large cities to smaller towns. And if you are going to open doors, you really do need to have the draw for customers to have experiences, whether that's workshops or playful events. In Europe, on the other hand, we're seeing doors close. And I believe this is because the feminist sex toy store revolution never came here in a big way. So we're seeing doors close, and we're seeing restrictions around being open on, obviously Sundays and in the evening, and that's when people are shopping for sex toys. So what I have been doing and working with Fun Factory on is how to take that in-store experience online. And we are releasing our new corporate identity in the next couple months, which is really exciting because what consumers want nowadays is a brand with ethics. And at Fun Factory, we have our factory in Germany, and it is eco-friendly, and we are unionized. And in some countries, this makes a big difference. People don't want to think that their sex toys are made by children. And if you are communicating the differences around our ethics and also the quality, how do you explain when you pick up a sex toy in store that feels light? Like it feels like a Hyundai compared to a Audi. When you close the door, does it feel different? When you drive the car, does it feel different? And this is the reason why we're working really hard on how to bring that in-store experience online, and also vice versa. We need to have more quizzes that are not just about what we think bestsellers are, because we have a better margin. Once a retailer loses trust with their consumer, they lose trust in you, not the brand, because the brands aren't known that well yet. So I think it's very important for retailers to adapt some of the ethics around the companies that are doing things the right way and having that transfer over to their online experience and their brand as well.
That's great. And I was thinking about it also because both of your brands, the LELO and Fun Factory, they've just been around for so long, like before social media.
23 years.
And they really, you know, I think they were the two main brands that customers used to come in before social media existed or any of that kind of stuff and they would ask for those two brands. You know, so they really have had sticking power. And I think particularly Fun Factory has just been, you know, they really changed the way sex toys looked and the attitude towards them and just made them so fun and groovy, you know, that just kind of hadn't been done before. So it's great that they're, you know, again, developing and bringing it on to future things. So for my next question, so social media allows us to interact with customers and advertise the business to the masses. But as we know, our own industry's social media has heavyweight restrictions in terms of advertising and even the content that we're allowed to put out there. So meaning that traditional advertising channels can be banned. So what advice do you have for sex tech startups in the industry?
For startups, it's interesting because I think startups is probably the one place where you have a little bit more ability to play with social media, because we've already been put under the category of don't let them do anything, Fun Factory at least, because we've been around for so long. But you see companies like Dame or some other startups that are able to advertise on social media in ways that we can't. So that's quite interesting. I think it's really important to look at what market you're targeting. If you're coming into this industry, I would not say Europe and the US. I would pick one. They're very, very different. And unless you have a large, a group of people that you're able to work in different parts of the country. For instance, in the US, Twitter is really a great platform for us. And now Twitter is starting to experiment with becoming more youthful and having a choose your own adventure. Beyonce brought a choose your own adventure if you can be her assistant, right? So these are areas that allows in the US us to play more, but Twitter over in Europe is not as prominent. So my advice would be like, know what you're doing in each market and don't try to spread yourself thin because it is very different. And I would also suggest hiring at least a consultant in social media strategy.
That's great. Thanks, Kristen. And Virginia?
Yeah, I agree. I will just to add a couple of things in that. Yeah, as a startup perspective, sadly, this huge ban has touched, everyone, to be honest. So I understand that you have been around for so long, so there is a big X on you anyway. But trust me, even if you are a new brand, you just get blocked immediately. There is no way to go around this, sadly. So my tip is, if you are a startup, try to focus on something else. Social media are very important. You have to try to make them grow organically as much as you can. You have to find a way to engage your followers in a smart way, because now we have a huge long list of ban hashtags that are very much relevant and related to our industry that we cannot use anymore. So you have to be very creative in finding something that interests your audience, and that's a way that you can use to grow your audience online. And then try to find also other ways. So if you cannot sponsor on social media, which we all agree they play a key role in consumers' journey, we cannot do it. So we have to go around the problem somehow. One thing I've noticed work very well for some brands is influencer marketing, for example. That works in some cases in some markets. I'm not so sure about the US, but in Europe, this is something that works. Maybe, you have also your opinion on that. And another thing is like finding, an extra value and extra cause to your brand. You mentioned Dame. I think they are honestly doing very well in US right now. They are trying to, very much expose the brand on big values that are very much recognized from the feminist movement in US. And this is, driving them a lot of traffic, brand recognition, awareness, and this is, going on social media as well. So try to be creative and try to do something else than just, I have to advertise. It's not, sadly, gonna happen, at least in the next, I would say 5 years, maybe. It's my bet.
And Luka?
I think that because we all face the same restrictions, that doesn't mean that we should not invest in these channels. Because if we neglect the fact that it is restrictive, you can still build your own social media channel in an excellent way. Meaning that you need to find something that is appealing to your consumers. You have to have a consistent brand language through the years. So basically, there are no shortcuts for the quick success on social media. But after you bring a brand, if you have a strong products portfolio, and then you have a strong word of mouth promotions, on social media you will see one interesting thing, and this is user-generated content. Because as stronger the brand gets, the more you can exploit the fact of user-generated content from third-party people who are loyal fans. So you can play with influencer market, but I believe the influencer market is becoming a little bit more of a bubble. Because all these big brands, and I'm coming from L'Oreal also, and L'Oreal kind of picked it up in a later stage when it already become inflated. The rates were super high and everything. But social media is extremely relevant for the younger generations, and we are not gonna, their social media footprint is really heavy. They are the content creators. So if you can find a way how to address the younger generations, engage them with a smart communication, with something which is relevant for them. And these young people, they don't have the same mindset as older generations. They want to create something, they need to have something they truly believe in. It needs to have social impact, and it has to have a story around it. So if you play it in this way, you can actually have a really, really good impact. Because everybody will check your social media if they see the brand. Through various multiple touch points you can serve the info. From influencers to the bloggers to the sex toy reviewers. But the biggest authority comes from the user-generated content. And for this you need to really know what you're doing and being consistent.
And so my next question is, while many sex toy brands want to ensure their product lines are inclusive for everyone, I don't think that every single marketing campaign you run will be suitable for everyone. So the content that you put on your social media might be different from content that you're running in The Guardian or The Times. So the final conclusion is, in order to gain popularity, is it about budget or creativity and experience with targeting, or both, or bits of?
I mean, probably for the startups, initially they will not have huge budgets. So the creativity needs to be king. Because I saw so many in my life big budgets spent in a way that where return of investment was not really good. You need to always think on each dollar you spend, how much dollars you can generate. And that without a good story, without good creative concept, you will not be able to do it. But biggest thing where you can actually maximize this is by having a strong product development. Because the word of mouth promotion, when you have a strong products, will generate you big exposure. So PR is extremely relevant because media love the stories. We are still in a progress where we are not niche anymore market. Sex tech is gaining a momentum, but there's a lot of taboo that we need to break still. People are still shy, and what I see when we enter a few of the bigger retailers, that people like to watch the shelves from far away. They don't want to be, saw by their neighbors looking at the sex toys. So pushing this whole category into the lifestyle and the sexual well-being and educating people, this is the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the changes recently has made a real big difference of people being less ashamed of what they're doing or feeling like they're not being judged. But Virginia, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a trend and that's amazing. Finally, I will say, I think that a lot of brands, and I include Pureeros into this, because we have an entire magazine dedicated to sexual wellness. So I think that a lot of brands in the industry are really fighting and try their best to kind of, let me say that, educate the press to talk about sex and sexuality, I would say, in a positive, right way, not just, I don't know, like standard how to kind of article, but really sex education, empowerment, things like that. So I think the education is changing, and that's amazing. And with every taboo, the thing is, if you don't talk about it, it still remains a taboo. If you start talking about it, it goes less and less. So I think that, press, it's definitely something that works very well. Sometimes press is very expensive, again, for startups. But if you are creative enough, if you can find, the right way to break through and to get your brand out there, that's definitely something that works very well. And try to educate people not to be ashamed. Try to position your brand in a way that doesn't really, doesn't matches like the standard stereotypes that sex has. So more bright, less porn, I will say. That's something that helps a lot, you know, people to feel more comfortable on the fact that sexuality is a key part of everybody's life, and it's normal and it's good, and you should not be ashamed, you know, of taking care of it.
And Kristen?
So I think because you asked the question about inclusivity, like, are we able to have a really diverse communication method within the toys that we make? And, you know, it's really tricky because at the end of the day, there's like, you know, there's a vagina and there's a penis and there's an ass. And like a lot of the products that are going to be going into them are going to be doing the same things. But it's about how we are communicating. And I do believe that even if the, you know, heteronormativity is going to sell, let's say, the most in the world, people also like knowledge. And so there was a study that just came out of the UK that 59% of the Gen Z population do not identify, or 59% of them identify not completely 100% heterosexual. And in a study in the US, 1/3 of Gen Z knows somebody who's gender fluid. Fluidity is our future, and I do believe that if you take a stance and communicate around this, you are the cool new brand, you know? Even if you're an old brand like Fun Factory, if you're taking the stance of saying, hey, all are welcome, and this is how I'm going to communicate around it, I'm not going to make you feel excluded or not cool for being gender fluid, but I'm going to educate you because guess what? Your grandchild might become that, your neighbor. And I really think that Fun Factory, we came out with a menstrual product, the Fun Cup. And it was really great because it was the first ever, when I looked at the product and I thought, hey, this is the opportunity for us to say, we are going to talk to people with periods. Now, that wasn't the easiest thing to do in German because of the language, but it was something that I felt very strongly about, and we got a lot of press and a lot of people talking about that just because we were saying not every person who has periods is a woman. Yeah. So let's talk about that. And also, the connection between your period and your sexuality is really is totally connected, and let's give you some information about it, and you win them with knowledge. Now, do sales go through the roof? Not always. So it's hard for startups because you sometimes have to just sit back and say, I'm going to do the right thing around this, and people are going to talk about you because of that.
That's great. Thank you so much. Well, that brings us to the end of the chat. So I'd like everybody to give them a little round of applause. So we've got Luka from LELO, Virginia from Pureeros, and Kristen from Fun Factory.